a number of provisions, including increased access to capital for smaller banks, requirements that participating institutions submit a plan on how they intend to use those funds to help small and minority-owned businesses, and a number of tax credits. I believe those in our audience would like to know if the two of you are supportive of this legislation and other similar legislation, and how you think it will help or hurt that small business.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. And certainly we all agree that small businesses are the economic engine that drive the economy here in Southern Nevada and all across the country. And everything that we can do to help our small businesses hire more folks and keep their doors open and their windows unshuttered is what's important to revitalize our overall economy. The act that was just recently passed had several provisions in it that will go a long way in helping small businesses. And I am a small business owner, and I understand the impact that some of the things that we currently see in this economic climate are having on my own ability to stay open and be able to pay my employees. My concern is that, like some of the other programs that have been passed, it's too difficult or too restrictive for the small businesses to actually get access to the money to be able to go and grow their business. Some of them make absolutely no sense, like the Hire Act that was passed that says if you hire somebody and keep them for a year, you get a $1,000 tax credit at the end. Well, if there's nobody coming in to buy my goods or service, I don't need that person, and I shouldn't be paying them to get a $1,000 tax credit at the end. I believe it's very important that we look at the small businesses, minority-owned small businesses, veterans' preferences for businesses, to make sure that everybody has a fair and equal opportunity to be successful. My grandfather, an Italian immigrant, was a small business owner, started a bricklaying business that grew and was very successful in New York. And so I grew up in small business. I continue to be a small business owner, and I will support small businesses throughout my time, should I be fortunate enough to go to Congress.
Okay, well, thank you. Certainly, we do know that small businesses are the engines of the economy, and many small businesses are owned by women and minorities today. That's why I've made a focus on small businesses as part of what I've been doing in Congress. I voted for tax breaks for small businesses, for health care, for hiring, for capital gains. I've also co-sponsored the legislation to help small businesses grow and prosper. So you can count on that kind of help. But I did not support this bill, and I'll tell you why. I had real concerns about this bill really putting money into the economy. This was another bank bailout. I opposed TARP, I voted against the second TARP, and I voted against this. Because too often in the past, we have seen that you couldn't believe what the banks told you. They promised one thing and then did another. They were part of the problem, not the solution. I felt like this was not the way to get money flowing back into the market. In this bill, if you look at the provisions of this specifically, you can see that there was no requirement that the bank loan that money to small businesses. In fact, you could, under the bill, use that money to pay back your TARP loan. Or you could give all of that money, which you got at a low interest rate, at a much higher rate, to one company with under 750 employees. That's not a small business in my book. I thought a much better way would be to extend the guarantee from government of small business loans that we started during the stimulus, where 90% of those loans were guaranteed by the government. That was so popular that they ran out of money before a very long time had passed. I thought if you put money into that, extended that program, you would have a better chance of getting money out because it was already proved successful. And I'll tell you what, minority and women-owned businesses are 3 to 5 times more likely to get a small business loan than they are a commercial loan. So I thought that was a much better way to go because I just don't trust the banks anymore.
Thank you very much.
We do respect them.
Respecting that our time here is brief, if we can try and keep to the allotted 1 minute and 30 seconds for both candidates, I would appreciate it very, very much. Dina, one other question that commonly comes up is concern about the national debt, which currently stands at about $13.6 trillion. I guess the question that I think most small businesses are asking is, can this level of debt be managed effectively without pushing the economy into another recession, and if so, how?
Well, I believe we absolutely have to address the debt and the deficit, and we've got to bring that down in the long run. In the short run, though, we've got to invest in our economy. The best way to bring down the deficit is to grow the economy. So you have to approach this from 2 standpoints: investing in the economy and looking at the deficit in the long run. That's one of the reasons I voted for some structural changes that will help to bring down that deficit. For example, pay-go or pay-as-you-go. You can't spend something unless you pay for it or unless you cut something else to cover that cost. That was in place during the Clinton years, and we came up with not only a balanced budget but a surplus. They did away with that under the Bush administration, and you see what kind of deficit we ended up with. So I supported that, and I think that that's a good idea. I also support the President's bipartisan commission on fiscal responsibility, which is looking at broad cuts and structural changes across the board. You have to approach this in a broad way with a long view, not in short-term ways like, say, cutting out the Department of Education, which my opponent supports.